Okay, listen. There are three design mistakes that I see over and over again in short term rentals, and they need to stop. These aren't just decorating choices, they directly affect your guest experience, your reviews, and how your property holds up over time. After years of working in the short term rental industry, these are the three mistakes that I've seen far too many times. There is a design epidemic going around in short term rentals, and we need to talk about it. One of my biggest design pet peeves is when people confuse a theme with a sense of place. Those are two very different things. So, if your cabin has a bear on every wall, and we have skis and snowshoes being used as decor, or if your beach house is littered with anchors and seashells, I'm talking to you today. I promise your guests know where they are already. They already know the location that they booked. They don't need to be reminded every square inch of the house. But here's the thing, I'm not saying that the location shouldn't influence your design. It absolutely should, just not so literally. Instead of decorating with the location, we need to be designing because of the location. There's a difference. So take Lake Tahoe, for example. I'm doing it again because it's the market closest to me. I don't need to fill a house with bear statues and pictures of Lake Tahoe on every single wall to remind people that they are in Tahoe. The mountains give that away, the trees around give that away, and the lake gives that away. Instead, I ask myself, what colors from the natural landscape can I pull into the color palette? The green of the pine trees, the warm, rich browns of the forest floor and the granite, the charcoal tones of the rocks, the blues of the lake. And then I'd ask, what materials naturally belong here that I can use? Natural wood, stone, linen, woven textures, wool, leather. Now the house is connected to where it is without screaming, look, everyone, we're in the mountains. And honestly, this applies everywhere. If you're on the coast, this could be things like weathered oak, driftwood tones, soft blues, instead of anchors and seashells in every room. And if you're in the desert, it could be warm clay tones and natural stone and organic textures rather than cactus decorations, not even real cactuses, cactus decorations strewn everywhere around the house. The goal isn't to recreate the scenery inside the house. It's to make the transition between outside and inside feel completely seamless. I think that's why some homes just feel right, and you can't always explain it, but they don't rely on novelty, they don't rely on themes, they just simply feel connected to where they are. And that's the difference between decorating for a location and designing an experience that's inspired by it. I used to walk through properties all the time, and I started to notice a pattern. People are confusing gift shops with home decor stores. They go in there and they think that they should decorate their Airbnb with every little thing that they find in there, because for some reason I'm seeing the same Lake Tahoe wooden map in every single property. I'm seeing the same bear statues everywhere, and it almost became predictable. I just knew that when I was going to walk into a property, I'm going to see some weird theme and at least 20 to 30 bears and some skis on the wall every time I walk into one of these properties. Although my worst story was, I walk into a property, go in there to evaluate what it needs to do to become a high performing rental, and I am immediately smacked across the face with the view of a couch that is printed with trout. Oh, yeah, you heard me correctly. Trout, like the fish. It was printed with fish. And to add to that, just the cherry on top, we had fishing poles all over the walls. We had more pictures of trout all over the walls. That job was really easy for me because I just had to walk in and say, yeah, you got to change it all. You got to change it all. We got log cabin furniture, plus we've got a trout couch that is deeply offensive to me. Why? Who And how did someone approve this? At some point, the decor stops being mountain retreat and instead is just screaming aisle 12 at Home Goods. Guests don't book a mountain cabin because they want to see a bunch of mountain themed decor. They book it because they want to experience the mountains. They want to be in the mountains. The view is the theme. Your design should support it, not compete with it. Your Airbnb does not need to scream where it is. If I have to see one more adventure awaits sign, I'm going to assume that the adventure is finding the exit. The second mistake I see is owners designing an Airbnb that they're afraid guests will actually use. And look, I get it. You spent a lot of money creating a beautiful home and you got tied to some of the materials, the furniture, and the decor. But at some point, you have to remember you chose to put this property on Airbnb and open your home to guests who will come in. So it's not your personal home anymore. Back when I worked in property management, I worked with a homeowner who put a lot of work into the renovation of her Airbnb. And they put in these expensive floors that were beautiful, but unfortunately, they weren't the most durable despite the price tag. Put in these complicated blinds that were hard for guests to use despite having instructions. They broke quite often, and then repairs would need to happen. And then the worst thing, they put in their favorite dishes that I would get calls about anytime they were chipped or one went missing because it accidentally got dropped by a guest. So instead of the home working for the owner was constantly working for the home. I've also walked into rentals where there's a huge sign sitting right on the dining table, letting you know just how expensive it was and not to scratch it. And listen, if your guests are afraid to set a coffee mug down on the dining table because they're worried that they might scratch it and get charged, you're already creating a worse guest experience. Hospitality is the business about making people feel comfortable. The moment guests start wondering where they can sit, what they can touch, and being worried about a tiny scratch that they might get charged for, you've shifted their focus away from enjoying their vacation to protecting your personal property. Your guests should be making memories, not walking on eggshells. And that brings me to the third mistake. The third mistake is prioritizing aesthetics over how guests actually live in this space. A beautiful Airbnb is not automatically a functional one. I've seen gorgeous homes with nowhere to put a suitcase, no bedside tables, no reading lamps, no charging outlets where you actually need them, and beautiful furniture that's uncomfortable to sit on for more than 20 minutes. Every single design decision should either make your guest stay easier, more comfortable, or more memorable. Luxury isn't about spending the most money. Luxury is when everything just works. Now listen, guests rarely leave reviews saying, I loved the side tables, but they absolutely notice when they don't have one. Great design often goes unnoticed because it's quietly solving problems before guests ever have to think about them. At the end of the day, the highest performing Airbnbs aren't the ones trying the hardest to impress people. They're the ones that make guests feel comfortable from the moment they walk through the door. So the next time you're making a design decision, ask yourself, am I designing for myself or am I designing for my guest? All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments if you've ever seen one of these mistakes for yourself. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. All right, bye.